back at CPAC here with Ricochet. I'm with Kurt Schlichter, retired colonel, columnist at Townhall.com, and author of, most recently, People's Republic. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. So, Kurt, we obviously just watched President Trump speak to the base, and wanted to get your perspective.
It was very interesting, and standing in there, you can see what the media is going to cut out and make the big deal, and all the stuff it's not going to mention. The first few minutes were basically an attack on the media, which everyone loved,
right,
except for the media guys. Now I've got my media pass because I'm with Townhall, and I was out with the reporters and everything. And boy, were they steamed! They were steamed. Oh man, because he just went at them, and that's going to be the lead story. Donald Trump talks bad about us,
right?
Because to them, they're always the story. But what he said, I thought was very important afterwards. Mostly he said, I'm going to keep my promises. I'm going to do what we said we would do, involving trade, involving defense, involving crime, involving international relations. It was a red meat speech. The crowd loved it. The media hated it. And I expect not to recognize the speech that I heard when I read about it in the papers.
He basically repeated what Steve Bannon said yesterday with Reince Priebus on stage, and that was, every promise Trump made, I intend on fulfilling.
And that is so key. And I'm afraid, that the Republicans in the House and Senate might not fully understand just how important that is, just how key that is. If Donald Trump keeps his promises, he's going to be an 8-year president. He's going to fundamentally change the country back to what it should be.
Well, outside of this room, which is obviously, this is it. This is the center of conservatism for the most part. The Trump supporters, very young, which is incredible. We're bringing in a whole, everybody complains about the millennials. I've never seen more conservative students in my life. Is this a part of the 2020 campaign? They say that you have to start a campaign.
Oh, absolutely. He was campaigning for 2020 before the election, in my view. And everything he does will correspond to one of his election themes. By keeping his promises, he's drawing a line back to the Republican problem. And the Republican problem has been, let's win this election, and then we'll repeal Obamacare, then we'll do these things. And of course, they always find a reason not to do it. And now they're still pretending to find reasons not to do it. I'm not sure how long Donald Trump's patience will last. I think this was a message to Congress. You better get acting. You better get working. You better get my agenda enacted. Because I'm serious about it, and see all these voters? They're serious about it too. We got those astroturfed town hall folks.
Right. At the different congresmen's
town halls.
Yeah.
And it's completely different than what the Tea Party people did. The Tea Party people were unorganized.
Mm-hmm.
They self-organized, to be exact. They were decentralized. These are centralized. They are being sent to the leftists are being sent there. They're not really representing the anger of people. They're representing what George Soros is paying for. The Tea Party represented the anger of people. And that anger has faded a little, but it will come roaring back if the Republicans do not keep their promises. Cowardly Republicans had best understand, don't listen to the shouting leftist in your town hall. That's one vote, and he might not be in your district. You better listen to the people who elected you.
Further to that, one of the more recent, and your articles are incredible on Town Hall, by the way. One of your recent articles were talking about how leftism and the shrieking and the hysterical nature of leftism right now that's out there is actually putting more moderates into the Trump camp.
I think it is pushing people over because it's so biased, it's so unfair, and it's so unreasonable. It's crazy talk. This talk of treason and Russians, and he's going to sell us out, and here come the camps. And, as day after day goes by, and none of that happens, but what happens is he keeps his promises. You get a very conservative Supreme Court justice. You got a defense secretary named Mad Dog. What's not to like? As this goes on, people are seeing the
sky isn't falling.
They're seeing that it's all a lie, it's all a scam. And his attacks on the media are resonating. And they're resonating because the media is proving them true. He's doing what he promised. The media is lying about him. They're shown to be liars. This thing about Sweden. He mentions, what's happening in Sweden? Next day, nothing's happening in Sweden. Next day, here's the riots in Sweden. And of course, if you were hooked into kind of alternative media, you knew there had been huge problems in Sweden. Hell, if you had watched 60 Minutes last year, when they went into one of the Muslim areas of Sweden, a no-go zone, and were beaten up, you'd know there was a problem there. And, 60 Minutes says it, that becomes inconvenient, and now CBS is saying, oh, there's no problem. And of course, the next day there are riots, which don't get covered.
Right.
But you can't hide it now. It's on Facebook. It's on Ricochet.
Right.
It's on all sorts of alternative media. They can't hide the truth. They can't control the agenda. And what we're watching is kind of the death throes of the media cockroach. It's on its back going, Arr!
It's amazing. Another issue, in talking about social media that you just referred to, I can't have a discussion with you and not talk about Twitter. I'm sorry.
What? What's a Twitter?
What's a Twitter? You are proof of the fact that if you are going to be on Twitter, you got to fully commit. You can't. You got to go full. I don't.
Twitter is a perfect mode for me, because I'm a former stand-up comic. I know how to write a joke, and I can write short and pithy.
But as a lawyer, as a
lawyer,
writer, and everybody else, how do you have the time to engage with so many? I mean, I go on a couple times a day, and you're constant, and it's a feed.
You have to...
And it's phenomenal, by the way. You need to follow this.
You absolutely need to follow me. If you don't, your life's incomplete. You're going to die alone and unloved. But, look, I'm a very good time manager. 28 years in the Army did that. Running my own law firm did that. I know how not to waste time. And I consider time precious. And that's why you'll see me. I'm walking along, and I'll be, on this. I don't like to waste a minute. Doesn't mean sometimes I don't just stare at the ceiling, but that's not a waste of time.
Right.
If you plan to rest, it's not a waste of time. If you plan to just sit there and, veg, yeah, it is. I like Twitter. I like the instant feedback. I like the quickness of it. It's like Sudoku to me, because I see something and I want to write something that's clever and funny and that people are going to respond to.
And you're pillaring people. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, bad people need to suffer.
Yeah. So, moving on from 2017 CPAC, what do you foresee for this administration, from your perspective, down the road, and priorities for this administration? What should they be?
The priorities should be keeping their word, and I believe they will keep their word. Their program is really fairly simple. There aren't a lot of things that they say they're going to do. If you listen to him, he's got maybe 5 big themes. He has it very simple, very clear, and he can make positive progress in all of them. His first problem is not going to be the Democrats, it's going to be the Republicans who want to keep business as usual, which means let's keep the status quo that we can cash in on. And he is eventually, I believe, going to tire of that. And you will see him turn his firepower on the Congress to get it moving. And if it is wise, it will get moving. If it is unwise, you will see...
Do you see his primarying people?
Yes. I absolutely see Donald Trump taking people who are opposing him actively and going down and supporting their primary opponent. Absolutely. I don't believe he thinks that's somehow out of bounds. Just because it's never done doesn't mean he's not going to do it. Right. And they should be afraid. Donald Trump has captured the zeitgeist, whether you like it or not. If you're a Republican, you better understand it. And we have our John McCain mavericking up all over the place, and little Lindsey Graham with his sailor suit and lollipop doing what he does. We're always going to have our preening jerks who are mad because the spotlight isn't on them. I mean, they're both failed presidential candidates.
Right.
But the Republican Party, the conservative movement, because the Republican Party is the vehicle for it, Donald Trump really is the third party everybody was talking about.
Yeah.
The Republican Party is the vehicle, and people need to get on board. I think if he keeps his word, Donald Trump is going to come back with a Senate with 5 to 6, 7, 8, maybe even 9 more Republicans in 2021, and more Republicans, members of the House.
Last question for you. Most recent book, People's Republic, phenomenal. Your book before that, I loved Conservative Insurgency. It was talking about the future,
yes,
and putting us into the future, and Obama, and obviously a continuation of that. Do you do a follow-up of that now after Trump?
No, I'm writing a prequel to People's Republic that's going to talk about the next few years in a novel format. I really like doing it as a novel because, Andrew Breitbart said, get out there, do popular culture.
Yeah.
And I wanted to write a book that people would enjoy, reading on an airplane. And I people tell me that's what I did. It's a better way,
Hotel
I think.
Pool for me.
Hotel pool. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. I mean, that's the perfect location.
Right.
I don't want it to be on the conservative bookshelf. I want it to be on the books I like shelf.
Right.
And then I've got my message in. You can agree or disagree. I really want to make it to make you think. Yeah. Maybe you think, oh, well, Kurt, you're going a little too far. Maybe I haven't gone far enough. But also, the last 4 hours reading this thing, it's been kind of fun. It's kind of exciting. It's
good stuff.
Good stuff.
Get his books. Follow him on Twitter at Kurt Schlichter. And Kurt, greatly appreciate it. Read his stuff
thanks for
on
having
townhall.com.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Okay.